Hi, this is Leslie. Welcome to the Walnut Women podcast, where we like to discuss topics through the lens of God's Word. In this episode, Alice, Meryl, and Vanessa join me as we talk about spiritual motherhood and the important role spiritual mothers have played in our lives. Okay, so we're in the month of May, and we just celebrated Mother's Day. And the icebreaker question I'd like to ask you guys is to describe one attribute of your mom that has rubbed off on you.
For me, I think one attribute that definitely has rubbed off is like meticulousness. Like my mom is very detail oriented and very precise, and that definitely has rubbed off on me for better or for worse.
Yeah. But especially in the dental field, right? Like you have to be meticulous.
Yeah, it helps.
And are you also that way around your house too?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like borderline OCD sometimes. The older I get, the worse it gets. But it's nice because then I can like talk to her about it and she understands where I'm coming from and she could like speak from her wisdom.
Yeah. Cool. May I add something too? Because even like giving instruction, because I have the benefit to be the patient to both Auntie Mary and Meryl
a dental patient.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, every time I go to them, start from Auntie Mary, I always get all this like a thorough instruction, and she gives so clearly. And so when Meryl start, practicing there, and then I start seeing her, I was like, wow, this is just amazing.
It's a blessing.
I expect exactly the same thing, like nothing less, from Meryl when it comes to instruction, from like, her mom. So that's great. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, Auntie Alice, you can share next.
Okay, well, I think that for me is my mom's, I should say, self-discipline and self-control in a way, because she is always very into, I would say, self-control in her ways of, working out or upkeeping herself, whether it is having source of resources to converse with people or in ways of keeping herself mentally, emotionally, and physically fit. I mean, I cannot say I'm really can meet up her standard, but I think that in certain way that I am very much like her, and that has rubbed up on me that I also want to have that exercise that self-control. But of course, I'm still not at that point yet where she is at. So I'm still working really hard to reach her point. But she's like, really good in doing that, of keeping herself.
That's amazing. It's great to have self-discipline and self-control. I love those attributes.
For me, I was thinking that my mom like loves to laugh, and I feel like I also love to laugh. Like we just like to joke around. I feel like I appreciate just like my family in general, just like we just like to like have fun and just like laugh together. So I feel like that's for me too. Yeah.
I feel like Kevin fits in right with you.
Oh yes. Yes.
Very much so.
Very true. Very true.
Aww, that's really encouraging to hear. She has a lot of joy.
Yeah.
So the first thing that came to my mind about what attribute of my mom has rubbed off of me, I think it really showed when I was married, and then also when I became a mom myself. It's the attribute of always wanting to offer food to people who come through our doors, but more specifically, fruits. It's just like the thing, we always had a variety of fruits in our house. We never, it never went empty. And then seriously, every time someone came to our house, she would offer food. If it wasn't in form of like a meal, it was always fruits. And I really thought about how I grew up not just seeing my mom do this, but I saw her 6 sisters doing this and my grandma So as a kid, I feel like, man, I was surrounded by a lot of women doing this act. So it's almost like a second nature of like a love language of how to treat people when they come into your home. So that, I don't know what attribute, I don't know, being hospitable, I guess. Yeah. So thanks for sharing, everyone. Our topic today in honor of this month is on spiritual motherhood. And actually, we heard about this in the sermon yesterday. I think what I wanted to talk about is how spiritual mothers have played a role in our lives. As we are one body in Christ, we have access to many members, and we have our own biological moms, but God has given us moms within the body, and I think that we can call them our spiritual moms. So let's just first talk about, let's just define it. Why did God give us spiritual mothers, and what do they do?
Okay. All right, I can start us off. Spiritual mother, when it first come to my mind, is the image of someone who is willingly, or I would just say willingly, give her life, her time, herself to other women or other people, I should say, especially in the church community, that I would say a woman who is willing to share her life with other women, okay, younger or older or other people. And I should say as well that that she's sacrificial with her time. She's sacrificial with her just herself. You know, that she's willing to open herself up humbly and using her past experience to encourage and comfort those who are walking through the same difficulty that she did in the past. And she's willing to share those experiences, and she's willing to encourage the people that are having these difficulties at this time to look to God and to remember the gospel, what Jesus has done for them, and how they can be built up through this process, and how they can be encouragement to others, even when they are in this difficulty. Yeah, so to me, I just see that is a mentor, is a mother, is a, you know, just a loving sister who is willing to give herself to God's people for God's purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think sometimes when we think of this concept of spiritual motherhood, like we have this like ideal of like an older woman just like sitting down, like something that's very structured. But I think a lot of times, like when I think of people who I've like benefited from, it's a lot of times like it's not structured. It's just like living life alongside of them, or just giving people a picture into what your life is like, and that includes the messiness of life. And when I really think about it, I think it's a privilege. Like, I don't think your biological mom should be excluded from being your spiritual mom.
Oh yeah, for
Even
sure.
when I think when we grow up, like especially like in high school or college, we're always like, "Oh, I want to be like discipled by someone," you know. But as I was thinking about this, I was like, man, like it's like a tremendous privilege if you could be able to call like your biological mom your spiritual mom, because you have eyes into her life that no one else has. You know, you see her faults, her strengths, you see how she deals with things day in and day out, and no one knows you more intimately than your mom, you know. And I think now when I'm a mom, like we always say like, oh, our house or our kids are like our primary disciplers or disciples. And I was just thinking like, man, like when I grow up, I like hope that my kids would be able to say like, you know, my mom, she like faithfully discipled me, you know. And yeah, I'm really thankful that, you know, like I could call my mom like my sister in Christ. And yeah, I think it's just a beautiful thing to have that privilege.
Yeah, well, I was reading this article that was talking about this topic, and what I really liked is how I think in this time, in this culture where we have like really quick access to all kinds of knowledge and access to great teachers and great blog posts or podcasts, I think that we're tapping in to like the areas of interest that we have. And we might listen to male speakers and teachers, but we might also listen to female ones. And I think that like we fill ourselves with so much knowledge, but how many of us can say we actually know a woman who is walking faithfully in her life, following and being obedient to the Lord, and we know her well enough where we can imitate her ways through those daily tasks, how to interact with, how to treat your husband, how to treat and engage with your kids. Like, how many of those women do we actually know? And to further, like, to go beyond knowing them, to be able to receive from them, like when we are going through a time of need, like, can we receive like the comfort and the loving nurture and encouragement of those women? So I thought that, yeah, like we here we are, we strive to know more, but I think what we really need is a woman's shepherding care. And I think spiritual motherhood is just a woman shepherding God's flock, being faithful to, just shepherd the hearts of those, which includes her own children, but it also includes the body of Christ and also unbelievers. Part of that work can be evangelistic.
What Meryl was saying, like discipleship or like spiritual motherhood doesn't have to be like structured. It could be, but I think a lot of times it is like just welcoming them into like your home. And I think I remember when I was in college, like a pastor's wife at the church, she knew that like I wanted to like learn how to sew. And like she knew how to like sew and like use her sewing machine. So she just invited me over to her house and she was like teaching me, and her kids were just like, with us and like, just like learning alongside of us. And I think I just like spent a lot of time at her house, and like I got to see like how she like how she treated her kids, and like how she like, if they had throw a tantrum, like how she would respond. And so I think, like in the messiness of like the light, like of your life, like you see like a real life like display of the gospel, and not just like what you were saying, like just like knowledge. Because we like get so much knowledge like all the time, but I think it was like really precious, like being able to like see like, oh wow, like this is how she would actually like react, or just like how she would be like in specific situations. And I think, I feel like, since like high school, college, and like even now, I feel like there have been so many women who like I see their examples of just like, I think one like was just like she I think I learned a lot about like not or kind of like controlling like your tongue and like not gossiping. I could see like, because something had happened, I was just curious, I was just like asking her about it. And I think like to me, like I think my natural instinct would just be like, oh, I'll just share with you, right? But I think for her, like she had like discernment to be like, no, I'm gonna like refrain from sharing details with you. And I feel like that like really encouraged me and like gave me like a clear example, and like kind of like like a path, like kind of like guiding me, like this is how like we can exercise like self-control with our tongue.
Exactly.
And that was like, I was like, wow, like that's like so odd, because like you could read about that, but I was like, I actually saw her like live it out and like give me an example of that, and that was like super encouraging for me. So I always think about her when like I have like things to share now. I'm like, okay, like is this like necessary, just like learning from her and stuff. So I feel like I've been really blessed, like in the past and like right now, just like with a lot of women just like being willing to like open their lives to me and like share just like their past experiences, but also like how they live their life like right now. And it really like helps me like know how to live my life too.
I think for me, the example I can think of is this one older woman. She's full of wisdom. I call her spiritual mom because I know I can always count on her to share God's wisdom with me. And I remember this specific period of time now where, I have two boys, right, Josh and Josiah, and they're just, they're just always my babies. When they were small, Yeah, they always like, needed my nurturing. They always came to me and say, hi, mommy. Like, they would give me hugs. But when Josh was turning into age of 11 and he started kind of like detaching from me, And so I feel like so distant, and he did not like talk to me as much. He did not share with me as much, and he still came to me with when he was hungry, when he needed something for school or activities, but just felt so different. So I went to talk to this my spiritual mom, and then she shared with me that, well, first of all, she affirmed me and Ray that we are doing the right thing, because she was telling me that when the boys were growing up, they would look for a male role model. They would start seeking the role model in their father, the father figure, not so much from, with mom. And she said it is a healthy way to detach from you. And so she affirmed that, we're doing the right thing, first of all. And second, she told me, that means that you have built up this really strong relationship with your son, and you shall not fear. I mean, it's very normal experience, like the feeling that you feel like, he doesn't seem to be so sentimental towards you, but she said that's not so. It's a process that he's going through, and he's going to come around. He's going to learn to be a man, and he's going to learn how to take care of you and be passionate, be affectionate, towards women, And then she said you can be there to be that role model for him to experience that affection. And so, so she just like, really encouraged me and talked to me about the love tank, how you heard about love tank theory, right? It's like how you would have to fill that tank, with the love languages. And so she encouraged me to continue to do what we've been doing. And she also shares so much wisdom with me, and helped me to see where I and Ray and I should be as a husband and wife, as the parents, and how we model that love, to our children, just as how God, models His love for us, and yeah, I just feel like so fulfilled after every time I talk to her. I feel like so in the right direction. I'm going in the right direction, and and not only that, but at times she will also rebuke me. She will ask me a lot of good questions, and help me to realize that the feeling that I was having was, whether it was a healthy feeling, was a biblical feeling, or is a feeling that just out of my own jealousy, or I need to really look deeper into my heart. And so I really appreciate her guidance, not just affirm me and uphold me, but she also rebukes me, when I have, the fall short of God's glory. When I sin, and she would make sure that I understand. And then she would, encourage me to move into the right direction according to God's word. So I'm really, really appreciate her as my spiritual mom.
Yeah, I feel like the older you get, you need more wisdom and more prayer, because it's just harder. Like you're building your personal responsibilities, and then God increases that if you are a steward of other things, like a job, a full-time career, or if you're in charge of like raising your kids. When I was younger, I think one of my first spiritual mothers, or I would also throw in their mentor, was someone whose relationship with God was so intimate that in her prayers, I could tell, like, she just trusted God. And the way she prayed for me, I knew that God's Spirit was helping her intercede for my behalf. And that was like really encouraging me to say, hey, I want that. I want to have that kind of intimacy with God, because it was the first picture I had of hearing someone's prayers. And I think to this day, that's one of the reasons why I love receiving prayer. And I like to take opportunities to pray for people, because I don't know, I just love when people pray for me. I love hearing the faith behind their prayers, and just to get a taste of like the God that they are praying to and the God that they believe in and trust. So yeah, one of my first mentors, I would say, I learned how to have intimacy with God. That's what she modeled. And then very recently last year, when I was going through my health issue, of course, which is still ongoing, I was in a lot of need. I just needed a lot of encouragement. I needed a lot of reassurance. I needed people to guide me through the process of uncertainty. And I just feel so blessed at FCBC. There is like so many women that I can look up to. And in my time of need, when I needed help taking care of my family, God just sent all these spiritual moms my way. And the really interesting thing is, even in a short exchange, when someone was like dropping off food, for example, there was always like one little line that a woman would leave me with, and I would just think about that as food. Like, I just had no time to really be like reading the Bible when life was really up in the air. And with every interaction, God allowed that woman to like give encouragement or speak truth or leave me with something that I specifically needed to hear, because I was specifically struggling with it. And it may not even have been extremely profound, like a Bible verse even. It was just a simple phrase like, you need to rest. Or yes, it's as simple as that. But just hearing that, it was like, yes, that's true. God is telling me to rest. And I welcome all spiritual moms. Like, as a mom myself, I feel like it's just a lot of work, just being the nurturer, the full-time nurturer and caretaker of like your family. And I just love that our church has an abundance of spiritual moms.
Yes.
How have you grown as a spiritual mom? How has God using you to adopt spiritual children?
You know what? I thought back and said, you know what? I had no concept of a spiritual mother at all when I first started following Jesus. But God just called me into this, and because He truly loves me, He loves me through other women, and He allowed me to also share His love with the women that are coming after me. And these women, younger women, their encouragement to me made me feel a lot more blessed, to walk with them. To know that that God is still uses me to impact their lives in many different ways. So I see, like, let's say, ask a question. So, how have I grown to be a spiritual mother? I should say I didn't even know how, but the Lord just put His hand, put His hand in this, like guide me through it. And all I wanted to do just share light with people. I just wanted to open myself up and let them know the struggle that I went through, because I don't want them to go through the same mistakes. But later, as further I go, I learned that God would use all life circumstances to cause us to grow for His glory and for our good. And God allowed me to walk through those difficult waters. And when these young women come to me, I can share with them my experience, but I always tell them that, my experience can only be encouragement to you, but you have to choose to obey the Lord and wait on Him. There are many different outcomes for many different people. God can use different people and different circumstances to train you and equip you. It's all for His glory and for your good. And so He used many ways. And sometimes when I share my life with these women, when I talk to them about certain things, when they came to me with some kind of issues in life, and honestly, I did not know what to say. I just sat there and say, you know what? Let's pray, because I don't know how to help you with this. But I know that God can. So I just said, Leslie shared earlier, it's just the time that we get to spend together, that she would come to me and then she will pour herself out to me, and then I would share my life with her. But I will tell them, honestly, I don't have an answer to every question that you have. But we have a dependable and trustworthy God, and He is bigger than all our problems, and we have to choose to trust Him.
Right.
So let's pray and see how God leads. And oftentimes our sharing time ends with that, ends on the high note of prayer, because there's no better place that we can be, besides just being on our knees and submit ourselves to the Lord in prayers. So I think that being a spiritual mom, God has grown me to be more compassionate and to be more dependent on Him, on His leading, and on His gift of prayers. And in the prayer time is where we're really connected with each other and also with the Lord. So yeah, it's a beautiful picture. I just feel like, I can just pray, and then a couple days later, she'll share with me, "Oh, Auntie Alice, guess what? God answered our prayer." I say, "Really? How? Yeah, it's just amazing how God works in that way. So oftentimes I'm the one that walk away being blessed, from this, being so-called spiritual mom, but actually all my spiritual children, they're the one that God has blessed me with. I'm so blessed through them, through my relationship with them. Yeah. So yeah, God is
I
so
think
great.
what you shared reminds me of John 15, when Jesus says that He is the true vine.
Yeah.
And I and you and me, or abide in Christ. That through that, only through Jesus can we bear much fruit, and apart from Him, we can do nothing. I think that actually it's a very famous passage, but to see it lived out means that we are not boasting in the fact that these women are great, but great women are pointing other women to the Lord's greatness.
Yeah.
And showing how to live in abiding in God, abiding in Christ, and that, it's okay to say you don't have all the answers. And when you don't know, you seek the Lord together. And that's the most beautiful path that you're showing them. It's okay to not know everything. Otherwise we would be God, but we can go to the one who knows all things. So I think that's what it reminded me of, that I think in this culture, there's I see a lot of just people celebrating a strong woman. And I don't know how much I want to, believe in those sayings. I feel like the more beautiful woman fully embraces her weaknesses.
Yes.
And it's humble before God and has that posture. And it's almost like the opposite of what, you just stop striving to be powerful or strong. That strength only comes from the Lord. So I think that, the spiritual moms that demonstrate how to have that posture, it's pretty countercultural, I would say.
It's easy to think about who I view as my spiritual moms, but then I'm but I'm nobody's spiritual mom. It's it feels like I just I'm not there yet. I think it's easy to think oh, you have to literally be a mom of children. Or it feels like you have to be a certain age, or to be certain criteria. But I think I was reminded it is just at any stage of life, and you're mentoring and caring for a younger woman. And so I was it's just I feel like it's a little awkward for me, I'm a spiritual mom. But I think about as I meet up with my youth girls, I think I resonated with what Auntie Alice is saying, just not feeling you need to know everything. I think God has really grown me, and I think before every meeting I have with them, I'm just God, I don't know how this is gonna go. I really need help. I need wisdom. I need your compassion, your patience. And so I think, I think it's really grown me in a lot of prayer and just dependency on God.
Yeah.
And I think I have had times where they'll ask me something and I'm oh my gosh, I have no idea how to answer that. And I feel oh my gosh, am I letting them down? Should I know this? Why do I not know this? And so I think in those moments, it really has like pushed me to like really have to like depend on God. And I think another thing I was thinking about was like, I think in order to like be a spiritual mom or to like mentor somebody, like it obviously like takes time, you know? And I think like for me, that's like really hard because I really treasure like my time and like my alone time too. And so I think like that it's like taught me a lot of sacrifice and like just wanting to like pour into their lives. And it's so hard because like some days I'll just have like, you know, like bad days or like, you know, something like that. And it'll just be really hard to like, you know, like push myself to not be like selfish with my time. So yeah, I think God is like still growing me in that area. But yeah, I think like what you were saying too, like I think it's like meeting up with like my girls has like really blessed me just like with like how like they're growing, even like the small ways that they, you know, like see like God's goodness, God's faithfulness, like it encourages me like so much. And yeah, I think like just as I like meet up with them, like I think like I want them to like see like I want them to feel like I don't know, 'cause I feel like when I was like mentored, like I felt like my mentors or my spiritual mothers were very like I don't know, I feel like they made me feel like comfortable to share just like like in a raw way, like a real raw way. And like I didn't feel like judged. And so I feel like God, I feel like yeah, like as I'm like mentoring now, like I want to also create like this like yeah, a space that is like, you know, comfortable and like easy for them to share and like that they won't be judged and like they're gonna be met with like grace. And so I feel like in that way too, like that has been passed down to me and then like God has used that to pass down to like you know like the next generation. So yeah.
I think you're definitely a spiritual mom.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yes.
Well, thank you.
And just a side note about like, you know, not have time for yourself. As Leslie and Meryl, when you become a, like biological mother, the little life inside, you know, like, you know, in your arms will definitely need you all the time. Remember how tired you are.
Sacrificial training.
That's right.
Oh, for
18
sure.
years, yeah.
No privacy in bathroom, no privacy in bedroom. You just run to the door while you were changing your clothes.
All your boundaries are violated. Yes.
Something to look forward to.
When you're napping on the couch, I jump on you like, what are you doing?
It's okay, Vanessa. It's doable. Like I'm someone who really needs like my me time too, but I still survive somehow.
It's good to know.
It's God's training for you, Vanessa.
Yes.
Look forward to that day.
Even though most counselors are like, you know, fresh out of college, right? They're single, some are married, but that in itself is a ministry of shepherding. And I would definitely say counselors are like spiritual parents, even though the age range is a lot closer. But like my first mentor was only a few years older, but you know, the impact was deep, and still I feel like there's still fruit coming from that relationship, which was like from decades ago. And yeah, I think in faith, you don't really know what kind of seeds you're sowing or how it's going to bear fruit later on, but people will remember interactions for a lifetime. They have a memory for like a true relationship. And I think that it kind of reminds me of the passage from Titus 2, where the instructions of what older women in the church should be doing, and they should be teaching younger women sound doctrine and to be specific and clear how to become godly in our lives. So I think that important ministry of discipleship is not just for biological moms, but it is for every Christian believer. It's a call to observe God's commands and to make more disciples.
Yes.
Darren actually mentors more guys than I mentor girls. But a lot of times I just sit in and join in on the conversation because I feel like his input is lacking a woman's insight. Even so I just think like it just seems like a fuller picture when we come together and offer counsel. I would also throw out there that you can also encourage an older sister in Christ, or I think that our mentors need a lot of encouragement to know that they're doing the right thing and we're being blessed by them, and we want to affirm like their faithfulness. So